All right, getting a little ugly in Seattle. I mean, Geno throws a nice pass, and then Geno flusters from the pocket early, and then Geno puts one on the turf, and then Geno... At the end of the day, Geno Smith just resorts back to being Geno Smith, which has always been a player, even at West Virginia, great highlight reel, even sustained runs of being good.
Yeah.
And then at the most inopportune time, again, making the wrong decision as he did a couple of weeks ago when he ended the game on the fumble, obviously. So, against the Steelers. I think that Seattle, and I don't think that you would disagree, they're going nowhere this year based on Wilson not coming back anytime soon.
Nope.
So rather than waste America's time on does Seattle have a chance to do anything this year, I think the more poignant angle, and I'm going to let you take us in the direction however you want us, and I'll follow you. I'll follow you lead here. If Russell Wilson demands a trade more aggressively, and he might, because this thing is going to be ugly by the time it's all said and done.
Yeah.
If he really wants out, do you just clean the slate and just start over with a new head coach as well? Given the age of Pete Carroll, I'm not age shaming. He's a youthful 70. I love Pete, but it is what it is.
Yeah, you probably the problem with doing that is it's so hard to find every right piece. You know what I mean? And this is conditional, obviously, on Russell Wilson saying, I'm done, I want to go someplace else.
Yes.
And we highlighted this yesterday. There's any number of places he could potentially go because of teams that need quarterbacks, whether it's Washington or...
Oh, God, the list is...
Who knows?
Endless. Pittsburgh.
Exactly. Pittsburgh with Tom Brady.
Miami.
Tom Brady could say, I'm done.
Uh-huh.
I doubt it, but he could say, I'm done. Tampa. There's just a ton of places that actually need quarterbacks. I'm not like double digits, but there's probably 6 or 7 that are going to need a quarterback. And Russell Wilson's still in his prime. And so if he looks at those other situations and says, I'm out, then you really have to consider what you're suggesting, BT. Now, the thing, though, for Seattle is it's really hard to start over. Like, you got to go find a new coach. And what's your philosophy with that new coach? Are you going young, unproven, maybe a college guy, or are you going to go a veteran who's been looking for a chance, like a Bruce Arians type? You know what I mean, or even Vic Fangio, even though he hasn't quite had the success as Bruce Arians, but still, there's different philosophies. You go with someone who's experienced, or do you go someone with who's young? And if you go with a young coach, you know what's going to happen with a rebuilt roster. And a young quarterback as well, you're going to get mediocrity at best.
If you're lucky, yes.
At best, you're getting mediocrity.
Okay.
And for a Seattle fan base, I mean, bless them. They've been lucky, man. Because they've had a viable opportunity to be a postseason team for a decade and a half. They've
been in the game. They've been dealt decent cards for well over a decade.
That's right.
Straight.
That's right.
Even with really no interruptions.
Even if you go back to Hasselbeck
yeah.
and Sean Alexander.
Yeah, that's true.
It's been a long time.
That's true.
And so if
Hasselbeck was pretty good for a couple years there. He was pretty good.
He just got put in the Ring of Honor.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
So what took him to a Super Bowl as well. If you do what you're saying and strip it down, it's going to be a torture for this fan base because it's been a long time since they've had to be bad and know they're going to be bad.
But that's why I don't think it's torturous because of their recent history. Extended history.
Yeah,
I think it creates an understanding and a willingness to accept a new path with some rocky early results. The hardest thing to do is to continuously sell the fan base that is beaten up to a bloody pulp. New coach, new GM, new quarterback, rinse, repeat, try it again, where there's nothing concrete. There's no evidence to believe in that ownership will get it right. If you're and I can't speak for Seattle Seahawks fans, but even from the Steelers' point of view, like if not the Tomlin's going in, we'll get to him with the USC rumors later, but if Big Ben completely starts over, if Ben's gone and Rodgers does not wind up there and they hand the football to a 23-year-old kid, I mean, Steeler fans would have to trust management, ownership, Tomlin, and even if there's some turbulence early, their viewing pleasure for 15 years has been cherished.
Yeah,
I mean, how do you not accept? You don't just get a lifetime competitive card.
Yeah,
that's peaks and valleys, dude.
That's true. Well, I think the only reason it would be hard to swallow for Seattle Seahawks fans is because Russell Wilson, as we just said, is still in his prime.
Yeah. Well, that's true. That is true.
And so if you acquiesce to his trade demand and say, all right, Russ, we're going to trade you wherever you want to go, get out of here. We got to start over anyways. All of a sudden, this emotion, like this great feeling of emotion for Russell Wilson goes out the door, and maybe it flips. I don't know how I would feel if I'm a Seahawks fan. And
meaning, would you have resentment toward Russell?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yes.
I think at that point you would. You'll always cherish the championship. But I've said this before. When somebody so directly states, obviously through their agent, but that's communicated from the player's heart, I no longer want to play for this team.
Yeah, and that's what it would be.
The fans of that team, we take it personally.
Yeah.
Even if it's partly the organization's fault.
Yeah.
We're like, this guy's abandoning us. That's just the way we compartmentalize things. Now, my first choice, I'm on bended knee begging this guy to stay. Mm-hmm. I'm begging Russell Wilson to stay. That's my first choice. And then obviously Pete Carroll stays. If he's adamant that he wants to bounce.
And do you think he will be?
I think that this will be the year that he's going to really want to jump on a different carousel. I do. Yeah, I do. So I think they're going to have a real tough decision because I think Russ will make the first part of the decision for them by declaring, I'm ready to move on.
Yeah. Do you think he'll do it publicly?
No, I think he'll be smooth about it. Yeah. I think he learned his lesson from last year. I think he's too polished to do that again.
Agreed.
Okay. So once that happens, then I think the decision of staying with Carroll or rebooting with a new coach, and I love Pete, respectfully, I'd go for option number 2. Then off of the new coach decision, you've got to decide veteran retread or whatever, or youthful. I would go with a youthful guy. Because, listen, they don't even have a first-round pick next year.
No.
They gave it to Jamal Adams.
Yep.
In the trade to the Jets. So right now, I was looking at Tankathon earlier. The Jets have the 8th pick. That's Seattle, and their own 4th. That's Seattle's pick.
Yeah.
And it's not even a good quarterback class anyway. So, I don't know, maybe you sign Mitch Trubisky. Maybe you do something. Who knows what you do. But even if Russ stays next year, they're not winning.
No, you're right.
They're not winning big.
The roster is compromised.
Defense stinks. You paid Adams too much.
Yep.
O-line ain't good enough. I just think it's time. I think
it's run its course. Yeah, it feels like that.
This is going to sound good.
Yeah, I was going to say sometimes you hate to say this about really good coaches, maybe even great coaches like Pete Carroll. You hate to say it because you don't ever want it to happen. You don't ever want to say, it's over, man. Right?
That message diluted a bit.
That whole pat on the back.
Yeah,
it's
good job, buddy.
Yeah, you hate that.
It's not fun.
But it's
the reality of the business.
It's the reality of the business, and it feels like it's coming. I mean, not feels like it is. It's here. I mean, they're 2-5. They're not winning anything this year. The division is tough. They're not beating Arizona. They're not beating L.A.
Nope.
I mean, heck, if San Francisco gets if Trey Lance comes in and starts balling, throwing the ball downfield, which Jimmy G doesn't, I mean, who knows if they can even beat San Francisco? So they're not winning this year, which means they're not winning next year. And Russell Wilson's not going to want to be there because he doesn't want to be on a loser.
That's what I'm saying. And I think the perfect time to restock the cupboards with incredibly premier draft equity would be this offseason.
Of course, because then you can get maybe a first-rounder back for Russell Wilson.
Maybe. If I'm trading Russell, I'm asking for minimum 3.
Really?
With Russell Wilson? Absolutely. The Texans were asking for 4.
Yeah, but Deshaun Watson's
because he's younger?
He's 26 years old.
Yeah, I understand that.
Russell Wilson is
33?
33? Yeah, 33.
Okay, 33.
33.
And he's an Iron Man. Outside of that, wacky throwing the ball, finger hitting the helmet, it's not like it was something that just shows signs of attrition or deterioration. This guy's going to play till he's 40.
Yeah, next
You and I both believe that.
Next month he's 33.
Yeah, so he's still 32.
Yeah.
I mean, and the way quarterbacks keep on playing late, I mean, there's no doubt I would do. And by the way, because we heard Houston wanted, multiple first-round picks and multiple players that are ready to play now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even want that. I would almost want all draft picks for Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
start over.
Let yourself start over. Yeah, it's just hard to find that new coach and then the philosophy, right?
Well,
I think that's really the hard thing. I mean, I look at this with our teams, right? Our Giants and the Jets, like for the last decade, really longer for you, but for the decade for the Giants, it's both of us. It's like, what's the philosophy?
I don't know.
Like, what's the plan?
Lose.
Exactly. And
Get embarrassed.
So when you lose a star quarterback.
I've never had one I wouldn't know.
You haven't, but I'm just saying in general. When you lose a star quarterback, That's what's plopped on the desk of ownership and the general manager. What's the plan? And everybody has an idea. Hey, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's get the line. Let's get the quarterback. Let's get a skill position player. Let's build up the defense. Washington built up defense. Didn't work, right? Some teams go get a quarterback. Doesn't work. Some teams go get an offensive line. Doesn't really work, right? Like, everybody's going to have an idea of how to get it back on the right path, and you just don't know.
Not saying it's easy.
So my point for the Seahawks is that if they decide to go this route, they're going into the great unknown of sport. Like, how to rebuild. There's no right answer to do it.
That's true. No, I can't refute that. That's true. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when we drop fresh content.